Do you want to make video games? Do you want to get a job at a game studio or maybe even start your own game company? If your answer is yes, then I'm going to let you in on a secret that will help you not just to make video games but to be in the top 10% of video game development professionals. Which means that if you want to work in AAA companies, if you want to work in the US, if you want to work at those top-notch game studios, you should really watch everything that I have to tell you in this video. My name is Rahul Sehgal. I'm the founder of Gamer to Maker. I'm a game development veteran. I've been making games for 13 years and I've also been teaching people how to make video games for 10 years. So give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, hit that notification icon, and also share this video with your friends who want to become game developers or join the game industry. So here's the secret. If you want to learn game development, if you want to be a top 10 game development professional, you need to understand game design. Some of you might be thinking, wait a minute, I want to be a game programmer or I want to be a game artist. Why do I need to understand game design? And the truth is that game design is the heart of the game development process. And if you want to be a game development professional, you need to understand it. You don't need to understand it in great depth, but you need to know how games are designed and produced, right? The best game programmers and game artists also know game design, and conversely, the best game designers also know a little bit about game art and game programming. So if you're interested in being in that top 10%, now I'm going to tell you what exactly game design is, and I'm going to tell you how you can learn it. So keep watching. So in the Gamer to Maker method, I teach my students that there are three distinct phases of game design: definition, communication, and implementation. Now I'm going to talk about these three phases. The first phase is definition, and that is the process of answering the following questions. The first question is, what are the objectives of the game? The second question is, what do players need to do in the game to achieve these objectives? And the third question is, how are players supposed to feel while playing overall and also at any given time? Now, these are the three big questions, and there are lots of more details that need to be worked out after these big questions have been asked, such as gameplay progression and difficulty, story and narrative, character design, game world and level design, user interface design, as well as sound and music design. Now, all of this has to be defined before the start of the production of the game, which means that even before a single line of code for the game has been written, the design team is busy doing something. And what is that thing? You got it. It's documentation. This is the big one when it comes to game design. It brings us to the second phase of game design, which is communication. After the design team or the game designer has defined all the stuff that I talked about just now, he or she needs to communicate it to the rest of the team, which is the programmers who are going to create the functionality, the artists who are going to create all the art like characters and environments and the UI, and the testers who are going to make sure everything works exactly like it's supposed to work. Most important way for a game designer to communicate all these things to the rest of the team is through documentation. I always tell people, if you want to be a game designer, you have to love writing documentation. There's no way around it. So here are the different documents that a game designer can be expected to write. Firstly, a concept document. The concept document is a very brief document, 1 or 2 pages, where you explain what the game is very briefly so that people can quickly skim through it and understand what the game is. Next, you have the game design document. Now, the game design document is a very, very detailed description of the game and its systems. And lastly, you have the feature design doc, which is basically like a game design doc, but only for one feature. So it contains great details of one particular feature of a game. Now, writing documentation is not easy. Most game designers don't get it right the first time because the key is that you have to be very descriptive. You have to write everything about the game. However, you have to be short, you have to be concise, you have to use diagrams, you have to use mock ups. You can't bore the people who are reading it. You have to get to the point. Writing a good document is a very, very particular thing and it takes practice to build up that skill. But once you know how to write good documentation, you will be a very, very valuable asset for your game team. Apart from documentation, it's not enough to just write a document and tell people to read it. You have to actually communicate with the team. Game designers are in meetings all the time. They're talking to people, they're explaining things in the game design document that they may not understand. They're explaining systems. Now, these days, the way teams are set up in the game industry, you could be anywhere in the world. The testing team could be somewhere else. The product team could be somewhere else. So teams are widely distributed. Also, working from home, game designers have to have a lot of meetings, a lot of video calls. So it means that to work as a game designer or be in the design team, you need to be a good communicator. You have to be a good verbal communicator. You have to be a good written communicator. Your English language skills have to be good. And this doesn't come easy. This has to be learned with practice. With most people, even for myself, I wasn't born a good designer. I had to work on those skills. I had to be taught, I had to be mentored by people, and I acquired those skills over a period of time with practice and effort. Also, remember that game designers need to have a fair bit of confidence as public speakers because you're going to be getting up in front of the team, you're going to be pitching your game, you're going to be pitching documents, you're going to be talking to people and essentially talking up your game, and at some point selling your game to players. So as a game designer, you need to have presentation skills, you need to have some confidence as a public speaker. Lastly comes the third phase of game design, which is implementation. While the game is actually being developed, the game designer's job is to actually play test the game. Now, it's one thing to come up with a game idea and say this is how the game should be, but when the game's actually being implemented by the programmer, the art is being integrated by the artists and programmers, the game designer's job is to actually get the latest build of the game. It might be ugly or buggy, but the game designers have to play the game and see how it feels. Now, this is called iteration. Once you've started building a game, as a designer, you need to keep playtesting the game and see how it's shaping out. It's possible that some ideas you had about what the game would feel like may not be right. In fact, in most cases, you will always need to make changes to the design. Once again, this is called the iterative process. So a big part of the game designer's job is to actually play the game throughout its development process at all stages and check if what they intended the functionality to be is actually there. And if it's not, then you need to redo the documentation, need to speak to the developers, need to speak to the artists and make sure that the design, the programming, the art is changed so that the original objective, the vision of what the game is supposed to be, is maintained. This is one of the most important parts of the game designer's job. Again, this means working very, very closely with programmers and artists and testers. Apart from play testing the game within the team, games are always tested by people outside at 2 points. And now these 2 points are alpha and beta. At these 2 points, you put the game out there for players, potential players, to actually play it and then give you feedback about the game. Now, alpha and beta testing are very, very important, as this is how you know how players are actually going to respond to the game and you can make changes according to their feedback. This phase, right, the alpha and the beta testing, if it's done properly, if the feedback is incorporated properly, this can make all the difference to a game. It can make the difference between a buggy, bad game and a beautiful, world-class, polished game. This is really important stuff. Alright, now that we've gone through what game design is, I'm going to tell you how you can learn it. Now, the only way to learn game design is through actually designing a game. The first mantra of my Gamer to Maker method is the only way to learn how to make video games is to actually make them. Now, you can learn tools through YouTube videos. You can learn Unity, you can use Unreal, you can learn Blender, you can use Maya. You can learn how to use tools, but the question really is, what are you actually going to do with those tools? Also remember that game design is a collaborative discipline. If you're looking to get a job at a game studio, you got to be working in a team, and that means you need to show them proof that you know how to work with people and actually building a game. This means that if your plan is to just look at YouTube videos and make a few small games and then apply for a job, that's not going to work. YouTube is great for learning tools. It's great for learning Unity, the basics of Unity and tools, but not really good for building up a good portfolio that's going to get you hired. The best way to learn game design is through a structured learning program where you follow game industry practices and you learn the process and strategy of creating games from experienced game industry professionals. So now, keeping all these things in mind, let me tell you as to how you can get my help in becoming a professional game designer in a year or less. The game design and production program is built around the Gamer2Maker method, which is a system of teaching that I've developed over 10 years of teaching game design and production and mentoring students at the most well-known colleges in India. This program uses a unique combination of recorded classes, Zoom coaching calls, live and recorded masterclasses, and also an exclusive Discord server where you can directly communicate and learn from me and from my team of experienced game industry mentors. Here are the main features of the program. G2M is fast to bring results. Here you can see Abhishek, who actually got a job as a level designer 5 months after joining the program. Next, it is 100% online and you can do it in your spare time. It takes just a few hours a week and you can choose when you want to watch the online modules and work on your project. You can be studying at a college, school, or doing a job and still do this program. G2M is designed to be done alongside your studies or work. Next up, you learn from people who are game industry veterans. This is absolutely huge, as these are people like me who work full-time in the game industry, actually making games and don't really have the time to teach people normally, but they will help you. We will help you. We will mentor you if you're a part of this program. Next, you'll be part of a community of people and a team who are going to help you to achieve your goals. This is one of the biggest assets for you, as a good peer group is massively helpful in growing your knowledge as well as game industry network. It is 100% practical. There are no exams to pass and no notes to memorize. And the best part is that you will graduate with your own polished game, one that you can be proud of, and that will be the centerpiece of your portfolio. At the end of the program, you will know how to design video games and you'll be ready to apply for a job as a game designer or even programmer or artist, or even start your own game studio. So are you ready to make your dreams of making games come true? If the answer is yes, let's go!